Hey guys, John Lee Dumas here, founder and host of EO Fire, and you're listening to Bravepreneur Parents Academy with ldquo.
Welcome to Bravepreneur Parents Academy, where the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs reveal their most defining childhood moments and share their legacy for raising brave little heroes who will grow up to change the world. And now, he still reads comic books under the blanket at bedtime. Please welcome your host, best-selling author, award-winning speaker, and self-confessed geek dad, ldquo. You know, like the hotel in Vegas? Yeah, no, that's really his name. ldquo.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Bravepreneur Parents Academy. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Josh Misner. He is the genius behind the Mindful Dad Project, which was created to help fathers connect on a more meaningful level with their children. Dr. Misner knows his stuff. He teaches parents practical, realistic methods, okay? This is not textbook stuff that helps us parents savor each and every moment of our children's lives with the intention of playing an active role in our children's memories tomorrow. I really, really love that. So if you guys want to be present in your children's lives, moms and dads, if you want to be present in order to create a future worth remembering, you're going to remember this conversation. Please help me welcome Dr. Josh Misner.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction.
Gosh, this is a treat. I've been trying to get this gentleman on the call for a while, so I'm really, really glad that we were finally able to sync our calendars. Josh, help me out, Doc. Help me understand what this mindfulness term really means.
Well, mindfulness is really comprised of a few different components. But at its core, it's remarkably easy to understand, and it's one of those things that's it's kind of abstract when we start talking about it and trying to define it with language. But we sure know it when we feel it. It's kind of like love that way. But mindfulness is really all about paying attention in the present moment. That's one component. Another component is doing it on purpose with very clear intention to do so. That's the second component. And then the third is doing so from a non-judgmental position. And so it's just kind of like absorbing things as they unfold in the present moment, and it's doing it on purpose.
Interesting. That's a particularly interesting point of focus in today's multitasking, smartphone crazy world.
Amen.
This is a challenge. Now, what makes you want to apply mindfulness to parenting in particular?
Well, part of it you just touched the surface of. It's because we live in what's being called an attention economy, meaning that our attention spans are now the most valuable commodity in our current market. Marketers know this, and so they keep pushing the envelope with regards to how they grab our attention and how long they can hold our attention in order to be able to sell us their products, their services, and whatnot. And so we've kind of developed this attention economy, and so our attention spans are constantly being dragged from one place to another, and this goes on all day long. And so it almost kind of creates this habit, and this habit then extends to our personal lives, you know, even when we're outside of all of those media influences and whatnot. And so we really need to know better how to control our attention spans, essentially, and particularly in respect to how we interact with our children, because we're ultimately the role models for our children. And so the more mindful we can become, the better that we can equip our children to kind of survive the next phase of this attention economy, which who knows what that's going to look like.
Wow.
But ultimately, like we need to be able to show our children the way.
I guess I'm not starting from a very strong standpoint, though, because between my smartphone and my computer, goodness, I'm on a screen way more than my kids are, and yet I get on them about having too much screen time.
I feel you there. I really do. Between teaching and managing my website and my writing and everything, like I'm constantly on the phone, I'm on the computer, I'm doing various things all the time. And I wrote an article about this some time ago about the need for really kind of being able to demarcate certain times. Like, for example, in my house, we have a technology holiday every Saturday where everybody puts their phones away. We turn the TV off. We put the computers away, and it's just us reconnecting. And at first, that was really a struggle to get through because nobody wanted to put their screens away. But after a while, I mean, it took us probably a couple of months to really kind of get in the hang of doing this. Now it's something we actually look forward to because it's almost like this release, like we're just kind of letting go of our attention spans being pulled in so many different directions.
Wow. So what would you say, Doc, prevents us from being more mindful?
Well, in addition to everything I've already mentioned, it's kind of the antithesis to mindfulness, which is called mindlessness. And even though
sound great.
No, it doesn't sound great at all. But that's the technical term for it. And mindlessness is good sometimes because mindlessness is essentially like defined as operating on autopilot, just kind of going through the motions. So like if I'm driving down the freeway and I suddenly decide to become mindful of my car's interior, well, that's probably not a good thing. So I need to be mindless of some of the things that are going around me so that I can switch my brain's perception to really focus on what is needed in that particular moment. So our brains kind of switch back and forth and we direct our attention mindlessly in various directions. But as we become more mindful, we start to become more aware of our tendencies to be more mindless. And then we are able to consciously and intentionally control where we direct our attention.
Interesting. So instead of it being on autopilot, or instead of external things determining where our attention is focused, we actually decide.
Exactly. It's a choice. It's an idea of being able to control where my attention goes rather than having it yanked in every different direction, which can then create a lot of stress and anxiety. And so mindfulness techniques have been used for years in helping to treat severe stress, anxiety, and depression because they found that as people start to become more mindful, they really do start to kind of open up to the world around them, and it's surprisingly relieving.
Interesting. Okay, Doc, you got me interested, so I want to become more mindful. Is there an app I can download or...
I've actually found a really great app that I started exploring because it has activities for all of these kinds of things in building mindfulness. It's called Happify.
Wow.
Really great resource. Free app, lots of free resources, free reading. It also provides like some biofeedback data for you. As you complete the activities, you can create goals and stuff for yourself. I've actually used some of their activities in teaching some of my classes.
Ooh, does it give like an electric shock if you check Facebook?
If only.
Goodness, there's an app for it. Well, aside from this app, Happify, which I will definitely check out, what are some other ways that, especially us parents, what are some other ways that we can set out to become more mindful?
Part of it is just practice. Becoming more mindful is just like any other learned skill, whether it's riding a bike, whether it's playing golf, or any other sport. I mean, I can't exactly go read a book on how to play basketball and then show up at Warriors tryouts, and expect to make the team. It's something I have to practice on. And so some of those things, I often share various activities through my website and through my Facebook page, really simple activities that people can do every day. But the essence of those activities really has to do with kind of letting go and absorbing ourselves in what's going on in the moment and doing so in a very intentional and non-judgmental way. So one of the things that I recommend to people is just if you can remember, particularly if you're in an interaction like with your children, if you can remember SOS, it's super simple. So SOS stands for stop. And the first thing you do is stop. You stop your thinking. You stop drifting off to what you have to do later on in the day. You stop thinking about the things that have made you angry prior to that moment. You just stop. So that's the first step. The second step is to observe. And observe not only with your eyes, but also with your ears. So observing involves listening. It involves taking in through all of your senses everything that is going on around you. So you stop, you observe, and then the third step is to savor. It really is to savor the moment. Even the negative things that we go through, sometimes we can learn to savor those as good lessons for us. I mean, they may be uncomfortable lessons, particularly if my youngest son, who's only 8, just happens to tell me, Dad, you've been on your phone a lot lately and it's really starting to bug.
Burn.
Ouch. Yeah, that hurts. But man, can I savor that moment and think, what is it that I'm instilling in my 8-year-old by being on the phone all the time?
Gosh, yeah.
And how can I change? And how can I use this savoring of the moment to really kind of adjust my behavior and do something differently? So if you can remember SOS, stop, observe, and savor, you'd be surprised at how much more mindful your interactions can be.
I'm savoring some very unsavory interactions myself, identical conversations with my kids and myself, how they call me out on the technology on a weekly basis. So, but you put it in a very poignant way. What lesson am I really teaching my kids when they see me obsessively use the smartphone or stay on the PC? If I'm doing that now, what are they going to do when they become dads?
Absolutely. And in some of my studies, I've discovered that when we do stop doing those things and we simply give somebody else, particularly our children, because my studies were all on dads and their kids, but when those dads stopped and they gave their children their full attention, their full time, the outcomes of those interactions were absolutely life-changing, because oftentimes those kids, even kids as young as 3 years old, would notice that these dads were giving them their full attention, and they would reciprocate by offering them even more opportunity to interact. And so it's almost like once we stop and we start giving people our full time and attention, they start inviting us into more interaction, and then the interaction starts to deepen, and then you start feeling it, and then you got all the good feels, and you're just like, wow, this is really amazing how it's affecting my interactions and my relationships.
Wowzer. This is really profound, and I'm going to make some changes right after this call. Let me ask you, there's a certain term that I saw you mention in an article, carpe diem, seize the day. Everybody's familiar with this term. But you wrote, Doc, about how as a dad, you would never carpe diem again. You would never seize the day again. Whoa, what are you talking about here? What's going on?
Very, very subtle nuance in terms there. So carpe diem means that I am going to seek control over the moment. I am going to shape the moment to my benefit. And the reason that I wrote that was partly to grab somebody's attention and maybe make them read a little bit further what I was talking about. But I'm more interested in, instead of seizing control and taking over the moment, I'm more interested in letting go and letting the moment grab hold of me instead. It's a very subtle shift in perception regarding the moment. But when we let go and we allow the moment to absorb us instead of taking control, some pretty cool things start to unfold. And that's really when the savoring kind of takes place instead.
Okay, I gotta push you on this a little bit, Doc, and you gotta help me think through this, because I feel that at certain times, as you're describing these mindful activities, I'm thinking about, okay, well, what about the ton of work, important work, time-sensitive work that I've got to get done? If I don't get this work done, I don't put food on the table. There's this anxiety that's pushing back on this whole concept of letting the moment kind of seize me. How does one confront that anxiety and the very real pressures that parents, dads as well as moms, feel from these external things like the job and financial pressure and things of that nature?
I am so glad that you brought this up, because just to kind of give you an idea of my qualifications for speaking on this particular topic, I am currently a tenured instructor of communication, meaning I'm full-time at one institution, and then I teach part-time classes for 3 other institutions, in addition to running a website and writing books and whatnot. And so I feel, when it comes to the, being busy and thinking about all those things that I've got to get done and work on.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, it was probably about 10 years ago or so, as I was struggling with this idea of multitasking, what I found was that when I apply mindfulness to multitasking, I'm actually able to do more with less time and to do it with less stress. And it's very, very simple. What I do is I create a to-do list, and that to-do list has Monday through Sunday on it. And once a week, I'll go in and I'll assign myself everything that I need to do. And that way I can know comfortably that everything on my to-do list is already recorded, so I don't need to think about it. I can let go of that. And I don't have to sit there and go round and round in my head about, what do I have to do? What do I have to do?
Interesting.
It's just there. And so then what I'll do is I'll arrange that to-do list in order of priority so that I make sure I'm taking care of the most important tasks right up front and then working my way down. And that way, as I am working on those tasks, I'm not thinking about anything else. I am 100% laser focused on whatever task I have in front of me. And then when I get done with that, I reassess my time, kind of decide if I need to adjust my priorities at all, and then I move on to the next item on the list. And I got to tell you, it feels so good to cross items off of a to-do list like that. And so then at the end of the day, I realized, wow, it took me 6 hours to do something that used to take me 12 hours. And the reason why is because our brains are remarkably incapable of switching between all of these tasks. And so if we can stop the switching from taking place, then we do twice the work in half the time. And then what we're able to do is really carve out that time for our families. For example, I mentioned the technology holiday, but in addition to that, we also have one day a week where it's daddy kid night. And, I rotate with my kids, and we'll sit down and watch movies and eat junk food, and we'll just spend the full night together enjoying each other's company. And then we have another night that we call family movie night, where the whole family gets together. And
together. I want to live in your house.
So, once we start figuring out the rest of our time, and we start being more mindful and more focused and more aware of what's going on in the present moment, then we become much more efficient at everything else that we're doing. And then you start discovering time that you never even knew you had. And then you amaze all your friends and family. How do you do this?
This is good stuff, man. Hey, we're getting the goods. We're getting the business now, man. Daddy kid night, family movie night, technology holiday Saturday. Gosh, this is really good. I want to get into that to-do list method that you mentioned, Josh, a minute ago, though. I really like that approach. One, I like the fact that you're thinking through your entire week. You're having that dedicated time to say, okay, lay it on me, brain. Give me everything you got, and I'm going to sort it into a priority list. But one of the reasons I suspect that we switch from one task to another, Josh, maybe a couple of reasons. One, maybe we get stuck on the task we're currently working on, and so an easy way out is to switch to something that's easier. The other reason we might switch is we get kind of bored with that existing task. So how do you, the best laid plans, Josh, I might make this wonderfully prioritized list on Sunday, and come Monday, I'm going in like gangbusters, but then I start to get a little bit bored, or I start to lose steam on that one task. How do I handle that?
Oh, amen. You're preaching to the choir here. So this is where mindfulness practice really comes into play, because through mindfulness practice, what you're doing is you're training yourself to let go of distractions. So like, here's an example of one of the activities that, you know, where you can really practice that SOS method of stop, observe, and savor. So one of my favorite activities to do with my children is what we call walks to nowhere. And it's where, if we're bored or if we're all fighting with one another or something, we just say, you know what? Hey, let's go on a walk to nowhere and see what happens. And so depending on the time of year, we may have to bundle up, but we head outside, walk out the driveway, and then go wherever. We have absolutely no destination and no goal in mind. It's just us spending time with one another and kind of accepting things as they come. And so that can be kind of uncomfortable to handle at first, because, you know, we like to plan and we like to know how much time it's going to take, and we like to know where we're going. So it's that practice of letting go of all of those restrictions that we put on things, or labels that we put on things. So on these walks to nowhere, I've ended up in a field picking through clover with my kids, looking for a 4-leaf clover, finding them, bringing them back home, and then devising ways to mount those 4-leaf clovers in like an epoxy resin and making necklaces and keychains out of them. And none of it was planned. You know, it was just something that happened. We were just taking in our experiences as they come, and we were just making decisions on the fly. So through regular practice like that, I mean, it takes a while to kind of develop this. Then on Monday morning, you know, when you go back to work and you are thinking about that to-do list, you are able to say, no, the to-do list is fine. It's over there. It doesn't need me checking on it while I'm trying to do my work over here.
Not even a little tweak.
And yes, I know that Facebook is tempting because it's over here and I hear it dinging. Hey, maybe I'll just turn it off for a little while and I'll just kind of exit that, and so I can focus on my work. And so we start recognizing when those threats to our threats to our attention span by way of distraction start to creep in a little bit, because we become more aware of our thoughts as they are arriving. And so it's that idea of control. I'm creating more control over how I'm using my attention.
Wow. Can I call you the Mr. Miyagi of mindfulness? Because I feel like Daniel San right now. I'm learning some serious stuff. This is great. Really, really good methods. Okay, so Josh, you're not only giving us all this great information from your PhD qualification, you're also a dad of 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the trenches along with us. So with your permission, I'd like to now take you through what we like to call the lightning round.
All right.
We're taking you back to your childhood. I don't know if you'll come out unscathed, but we're going to see. Here we go. Dr. Josh Misner, your favorite superhero.
Oh, Batman.
Oh, Batman. Doesn't get much cooler than that. Favorite cartoon growing up?
Ooh, probably Transformers.
Wow.
I was a Transformers kid.
You get bonus points for that. You get bonus points. Favorite video game?
Current or former?
As a child.
As a child. All right. Fair enough. Probably had to, I really like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. That dates me a little bit. That's all right.
Not the most mindful game in the world.
No, sir.
What motivated you as a child? What motivated little Josh?
Curiosity. By far. Curiosity. And it's still what motivates me today.
I can see that. Was there maybe a most embarrassing moment Josh, as a child, either in your preteens or adolescence, that maybe kind of still sticks with you today?
Oh, my goodness, yes. Oh, boy.
We've known each other for 25 minutes now. Come on, we're all good buddies.
Which one do I choose is the question. I would have to say it was the moment when one of my junior high school bullies decided to put gum in my perfectly combed hair.
Wow.
Today I shaved my head. So you can see how that turned out.
Didn't affect you at all. And finally, Josh, what were your parents' parenting style?
They were really hands-off, to tell you the truth. They were busy, kind of doing their own things, kind of always off, and I think that's what really inspired me to try to see how mindfulness affects parenting, to see what happens when I am, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and everything else available to my children.
Wow, profound. I hear you, man. I hear you. All right, folks. This has been some amazing stuff. As we close with Dr. Josh Misner, we're going to ask him the big question. So, Josh, you've got 4 beautiful kids right now. And how old's your oldest? Your youngest is 8.
My oldest will be 21 in January.
All right. So, Josh, let's pretend, and you don't have that far to pretend since you have a 21-year-old, but let's pretend your youngest it's 20 or 30 years from now, so even your youngest is married, has kids, his own little Josh Juniors, the Josh the Thirds running around, and they get to listen to this audio as a time capsule. This is like a 30-year time machine. No one's heard this thing between 2015 and 2045. They open it up, they listen to it. What would you like to say to your kids, Josh, about 2015, about why you work so hard, why you focus on mindfulness so much?
That's remarkably easier to answer than my favorite superhero. But simply put, I do it out of love. It's purely out of love, because I want my kids to grow up, and when they look back on their childhood 30 years from now, I want the memories of that childhood to be peppered with glimpses of Dad being a big part of it, and to know that everything that I did for them, whether they liked it or not, was 100% purely out of love.
Amazing stuff. Folks, you've been listening to Dr. Josh Misner, PhD, creator of the Mindful Dad Project. He helps other parents connect on a more meaningful level with their children. He's been featured on Time, Huffington Post, The Good Men Project, and the Bravepreneur Parents Academy. Josh, this has been an amazing conversation, definitely one to remember. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
To get more information from Dr. Josh Misner, you can go to mindfuldad.org. That's mindfuldad.org. Until next time, we'll see you, same time, same place, Bravepreneur Parents Academy. Up, and away!
Thanks for supporting my dad's show. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to iTunes. He said hot chocolate is for closers. If you don't subscribe, I don't get hot chocolate. I love hot chocolate.
Fear not. Although this chapter of Bravepreneur Parents Academy has come to its conclusion, we have many more adventures for you and your brave little heroes. Head over to bravequest.me for access to the Brave Quest Journal, an interactive activity playbook that rewards your little ones with points for accomplishing tasks that build character and unleash your child's inner superhero all before bedtime. We look forward to having you join us for more adventures next time on Bravepreneur Parents Academy.